welcome to Doors and Corners, a sci-fi and fantasy film commentary podcast. I'm Brian.
And I'm Zach. And every Friday, we sit down and watch a science fiction or fantasy film and give our 2 cents on its quality, production, story, and trivia.
We watch the film together, but without sounds or visuals provided to avoid copyright issues. But if you do have access, we encourage you to join us and follow along.
Here, we like to keep things casual, and there may be discussions of spoilers or sensitive materials or language. But we do try and keep things clean and family-friendly. Ultimately, the goal of this podcast is to create the experience of us all sitting down and watching this movie together.
So get ready to hit that play button, because we're about to get started.
Damn doors and corners, I mean, that's where they get you.
Welcome back to Doors and Corners. I'm Brian.
I'm Zach. And I had a really close call there where I almost burped right at the beginning of the episode when you started.
Nice.
That'd have been fun.
Oh, man. Well, we
I
are...
refrained for the sake of the audience.
Oh, yeah. We are jumping right into the sequel of last week's episode when we watched the 2010 Clash of the Titans to the 2012 Wrath of the Titans.
Yes, indeed. And it's so funny. This movie, not that many people saw it. Not that many people really think about it. Not that many people really know about it. There is a greater cultural standing for the first one, mostly due to the Release the Kraken meme.
It's a good meme.
And this movie, despite being highly flawed, is like a lot better.
It really is. I was shocked. I hadn't watched this movie in 10 years. And I watched it the other day, and I'm like, this isn't half bad. There's a lot of this that I enjoyed.
Yeah, I was in the same boat. Because I remembered virtually nothing from it. Like, literally zero. Outside of the fact that, like, I remembered that it was another Let's Go Find the Magic Weapon, and I remembered that Liam Neeson kind of doesn't really have a lot to do, and he's kind of more, like, down-to-earth and less gaudy.
He gives some, he definitely gets more dialogue, though. Like, the gods actually play a role in this movie, which I did appreciate. Yeah. They finally let Hades have some normal dialogue and not talk in that obnoxious wispy voice.
You didn't like it when he was evil.
I mean,
raspy.
Somebody finally got him a Hall's cough drop. I'm happy they did.
Right? I swear he was doing an impression of the first Dumbledore, except evil. Richard Harris. Harris is Dumbledore.
It was, yeah. So I mean, he's in it. I mean, we got, none of the other gods basically. Well, I mean, Ares is in it, but we'll talk about his character a little bit later.
What character?
Yes, exactly. But Perseus, a little bit. They give him a son this time. There's definitely some issues, but I think Sam Worthington, it was a little bit. Not that he all of a sudden became an amazing actor, but I think he was better in this film. And the Andromeda, a little bit more of a character arc in this one. I mean, she's still pretty one-dimensional, but she had one or two things to do. And that was the only recasting they did, but they got Rosamund
Pike.
Rosamund Pike. I always think of her as from what was it, that last Pierce Brosnan Bond, Die Another Day.
The Die Another Day. I was going to bring that up because they're bringing her in as the lead. They weren't actually going to use the character of Andromeda. They were going to use the character of Io, except that Gemma Arterton was filming a different movie with Jeremy Renner, which we have to watch on this podcast someday, Hansel and Gretel Witch Hunters.
I genuinely forgot that existed until you just said that. But yes, I do.
Yes.
I remember at one point in my life seeing a trailer for that and thinking, nope.
I remember seeing a trailer for that and going, yes.
Oh my gosh. I think you enjoy bad movies.
It would be.
I genuinely think you enjoy bad movies more than I do, I think, just in general. I don't mean that as a slight. I've noticed that you've seen more of them and kind of talk about them yes, they're bad, but I kind of had fun.
It's true. But she was filming Hansel and Gretel Witch Hunters, which then caused them to need a new female lead. And they were like, let's just use Andromeda. The other lady, who doesn't do a lot of movies, just in general, was like, I don't want to come back. So instead they hire Rosamund Pike to replace the character of Io, which is a Bond girl replacing a Bond girl. And that's kind of fun.
Okay, so
And
who
the
was
original Class of the Titans also had a Bond girl.
really? Okay, which Bond was Io in? Was she in one of the
Quantum of Solace.
movie that nobody remembers?
Her character's name was Strawberry Fields.
That's such a Bond girl name.
An agent for MI6, and she gets killed by being covered in oil, very similar to Goldfinger with the lady who gets covered in gold.
Ah, yes, Quantum of Solace. Man, okay.
I maintain that Quantum of Solace is an absolutely incredible action movie. It has everything. It has speedboats, car chases, gunfights, knife fights, parkour fights.
Did they forget a plot though?
Fight with a fire axe in a burning building. But it's a terrible Bond movie.
But is it?
Terrible Bond.
Does it have anything outside of action sequences that like works?
Olga Kurylenko.
Okay. That's. I remember in, was it Spectre and then whatever the last one was where he dies. Spoilers.
No
sorry.
Time to Die.
No Time to Die. I know that they like tried to bring like its plot points back into relevance somehow.
A little bit. They tried that with Spectre because Quantum was supposed to be a Spectre replacement, and they didn't have the rights to the name Spectre, so they called it Quantum as an evil organization, and then they tied Quantum into Spectre in the movie Spectre, and the movie Spectre had the greatest sin imaginable for a James Bond movie, in that it was dead boring.
That is, yes, especially anyways, we could go off. The James Bond podcast, but it's one of those weird trivia things, right? You have all those the connections with these, because Rosamund Pike. I mean, she went on to do some other. I mean, she's a decent actress. I remember her in Gone Girl. She was very effective. She was sinister in that movie. Man, when they finally revealed her how evil she was, it was like, wow, yeah.
Yes, I really like Rosamund Pike as an actress. I remember her from the first Jack Reacher movie. Which the first Jack Reacher movie with Tom Cruise is not like, it's actually a really fun movie, and it is a really good Jack Reacher movie, except that Tom Cruise didn't look the right part, which really makes it difficult, but it's still actually like a really good adaptation and fits really well. Rosamund Pike, though, is also, she's a huge fantasy fan. And she is one of the producers and leads of the TV show Wheel of Time.
That's right. She's
I could talk about that for a long time. She plays the character of Aes Sedai of the Blue Aja Moraine Damodred. And I hate that show, while also loving some of the things they do with it. But there is no denying that she is excellent, and was an excellent choice for the character of Moraine.
Yeah, I made it halfway through the second book, and I was like, nope, can't do this.
What, you couldn't make it through another 13 and a half?
We were doing the same thing over and over again. It was a wheel. Anyways.
Wheel of Time turns. Seasons come and go.
Yeah. But this is Wrath of the Titans, and she comes in and plays Andromeda. And I think she did, I mean, not that her character had crazy amounts of depth, but I think that the scenes she was in, she did an admirable job with what she had to do.
Very much agree on that.
I also appreciated that they...
She was...
Well, I was just going to say, I appreciated that they let her be beautiful, but they didn't try to, like, sexy her up. They still... they struck up a good balance of not trying to objectify her while also not trying to make her look less beautiful than she is, which that's a hard balance to do, especially in a fantasy movie.
Exactly. They show, I was going to bring this up later as we're actually watching the thing, but they show her as a beautiful woman who is not overly sexualized, but they also don't make her masculine, which is one of the things that they'll do when they'll sit there and go, we don't want this woman to be a sex object, so let's make her like a dude.
Yeah.
And I think that's an unfortunate habit.
yeah, you don't have to do that. But other than that, we still have lots of returning characters. Like we got Perseus coming back. We got Poseidon's kid, and Hades and Zeus are back. And the big bad
Mhm.
Kronos is just a plot device, unfortunately. Like just nothing else.
Yeah,
than that.
he's just a big mountain.
Yeah.
Which is probably why they even bring in the character of uh Ares to be a threat with a face.
Yes. And I love Bill Knightley. Anytime he shows up, I just like hearing the guy talk. Like literally just the guy could just sit there and read a cookbook and I would be like, I'll listen to that. So
Yeah.
and we get the return of is it Bibbo or Bobo or the owl?
Bubo.
Ah.
Bubo the owl.
And in a really, I mean, when we get to it, we'll talk about it a little more, but I loved how they incorporated that little cameo.
Yes.
Is fun.
We should get started because I could keep talking about a whole bunch of this stuff. But I'll go ahead and go over this here in that this is Wrath of the Titans from the year of our Lord 2012. PG-13. Much shorter than all of the others at a whopping 1 hour and 39 minutes, 9 minutes of which are credits. So it's like an easy 90 minutes.
Remember when movies were that short?
Jonathan, right? Oh, so nice. Directed by Jonathan Liebsman this time.
Not the Underworld guy?
No, it is not the Underworld guy.
Oh.
Wait,
he's Jonathan
it
something.
wasn't.
Okay, never mind.
Yes, he is Jonathan something.
Okay, go ahead.
This is the guy who did things like the second Rings movie, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre prequel, The Beginning, Battle Los Angeles, which we have already covered.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
That was an okay movie.
He also did the first Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle movies, which most people accredit to Michael Bay because it's very Michael Bay style, but it was actually Michael Bay producing.
Yeah, I was going to say he just produced
he's a very hands-on producer. However, I think that this poor director jumps down a couple of notches because he directed many episodes of the Halo TV series.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll have to do just a podcast about that. We're not going to watch it. You cannot pay me to watch that again.
Yep.
But I would love to rant about it for an hour or two.
Me too. That would just be so much fun. It was written by Dan Dan something French, Dan Mazot, who is known for things like Fast X.
The best movie in that franchise.
And a gentleman by the name of David Leslie Johnson Goldrick. Goldrick.
That's a name.
That is a name. And he actually has some fun writing credits. Things like The Conjuring, The Conjuring 2, Aquaman, many episodes of The Walking Dead, the Orphan series, and Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. This dude just writes cheesy fun.
Okay.
And the Conjuring movies are genuinely good horror movies if you're okay with the demonic stuff.
Well,
but this also had Greg Berlanti involved in its writing and producing. Are you familiar with Greg Berlanti?
I am not. What kind of stuff? What are some of his highlights?
Some of his highlights include writing, directing, and producing for... if you go back far enough, you'll get things like Everwood and the 2011 Green Lantern.
Oh.
Yeah. But he used that experience, like he specifically says that inspired him, and he went on to be the main executive producer on things like Arrow, and Flash, and Black Lightning, and Supergirl, and Batwoman, and Legends of Tomorrow, and Stargirl, and Doom Patrol, and Titans, and it goes on and on. This is the brain, the man behind the entire DC television universe, the Arrowverse, as it's often called.
Okay. I mean, for its downs, it had quite a few ups also, so that's not bad.
Oh, yeah. No, I am actually a huge defender of almost all of those TV shows with the exception of Batwoman, because I thought Batwoman looked terrible from the trailer, but if you actually watched it, it was even worse.
Yeah,
Which is sad because Ruby Rose was the perfect casting possible for that character, and it was just so badly written. Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen about half of all of those shows, so I'm not completely qualified to talk about them. I enjoyed them at times, and I feel like some of them went on a little too long. But
Well, it began in no. Okay.
it's okay.
Let's go ahead and
let's
get back to
keep
Wrath of the Titans.
Wrath of the Titans. All right.
Wrath of the Titans. Starring Sam Worthington, Liam Neeson, Rosamund Pike, Rafe Fiennes, Edgar Ramirez, Tony Kebbell, Bill Nighy, Danny Hudson, John Bell, and Lily James.
Wait a minute, Toby. Who's it?
Toby Kebbell.
Yeah, he was a Koba, right? Isn't that the guy that did motion capture for Koba?
Toby Kebbell he has quite a few really interesting roles to his name, as well as being one of these auteurs for performance capture and motion capture.
Yeah.
He's like not quite the protege, but he is following in the footsteps of Andy Serkis.
Yeah,
and he was Koba.
Yeah,
he's been Kong.
I just say he's one of those guys that once you say Andy Serkis' name, which you have to say first, he's one of the very next ones for sure on that list.
Mm-hmm. And he's also a very good actor by himself.
Okay. Awesome.
In my opinion, I think that he's been in a lot of bad things, but he's done some really good stuff. We have already watched many movies with him in it, including the first two all three Planet of the Apes movies.
There's a little cameo in the third one.
As well as things like Warcraft. Yeah, he actually has all kinds of really cool stuff to him, and I like him a lot.
Awesome. Well,
yeah.
Let's
also played Doctor Doom.
Was he
Fan Forstick?
Oh, okay. See, I still haven't seen that one. I'll have to watch it before we get to it. So I know. All right. Well, let's get ready to hit that play button in 3, 2, 1, go.
Hey.
And we
So
go ahead.
One thing about this movie is that the last one closely followed the story of Perseus and Andromeda. This one, it's a sin against mythology.
Oh, really?
It's a better movie, but there is nothing about this movie mythological.
Does it actually have a Titan in it, though?
It has a Titan, singular. Yeah.
You got the nice Liam Neeson voice. That guy does have a good voice.
Oh, so good. God Perseus. Okay, this line right here. When did he save humanity? When was there a threat against humans?
I mean, you've always actually one of my they jump immediately to like Io's dead. That whole happy ending. Never mind.
Yep. So much for
that is
his
some
happy
really
ending.
That is some high quality carving in that rock, by the way. For that that inscription, my beloved wife and mother. I mean, that was not ancient printing in that stone. I just got to point that out.
He is a god man. Maybe he has godly handwriting.
Godly calligraphy in the stone.
That's masonry?
Masonry?
Etching?
I just thought it was funny that they it's like a modern font that they Here, we have
I have created the CNC machine.
I do love immediately his kid is making weapons like any good young boy should, but that weapon plays some significance in the story,
which is funny because it's awful.
Yes, he kills a monster with it.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. But I just right here, Sam Worthington immediately. He's just more relaxed in his acting. He's not as stiff. He's not as just awkward as he was in the first movie.
Well, I think that in the 3-4 years gap between filming the first one and filming this one, I think that he went through a huge transformation. I think that he learned how to act. I think a big part of that was actually the 2010 movie The Debt, which you heard me talk about last time, as well as other movies like Texas Killing Fields and Man on the Ledge. But The Debt, which is about, in 1965, three Mossad agents cross into East Berlin to apprehend a notorious Nazi war criminal. He actually plays a young version of Kieran Hines. And it's such an intense movie, and he does a really good job. And I think after Avatar, he really invested in his acting skills, and I think it shows.
Yeah. He's good. I mean, he's not, I'm not saying he should win an Academy Award, but noticeably better. Oh.
Mm-hmm.
I love that he walks over and, like, steadies the pot. Like, that's what he's worried about.
Yeah. They really jump in fast, though.
This is
a short movie.
Yeah. But the fact that it's shorter than Clash of the Titans, but it still manages to create a little more character and motivation for it's like it's I applaud it for that, because it actually gives him some motivation, and they don't just forget about it later. They actually, like, stick with it. Like, I will say that, when it comes to the consistency of the plot and the motivation of the characters, this movie does a much better job than Clash does.
It does. So they talk about Tartarus. No, the walls of Tartarus are falling.
Isn't that what you get,
later,
like,
they're
between your...
I built Tartarus.
Oh, see, I was just about to make a flossing joke, but it's all right. We can move on.
Oh, Lord. Tartarus didn't have walls. Tartarus was essentially a living construct. It was a living prison, essentially. It was an actual, like, place in the underworld. It was the deepest pit in the underworld. It didn't have walls, but it was actually alive, and it imprisoned the Titans. And to clarify on some stuff that I didn't really talk about last week, is that the Titans were the original gods, and they weren't these big giant things. They were just like humans. But they were the parents of the gods. Gaia and Kronos were the parents of Hades and Poseidon and Zeus.
So they do get that part right in this movie. That Kronos is
Daddy. But
now, is it supposed to be like Kronos, like, with, like, relationship with, like, time, kind of like the creator of the beginning of things? Is that kind of part of that language?
Yes. Kronos was the god of time. Essentially, Kronos and Gaia, the goddess of the earth. So, earth and time had babies, and it was the gods. This Kronos, he's not really a god of time. He's more of, like,
He reminds
angry
me,
god of lava and smashing.
but to say he reminds me a little bit of what the angry character at the end of the first Moana movie, like the lava goddess or whatever that Moana's got to go, like, satiate.
Kefuti?
Sure. I mean, I know that's just ridiculous, but I also have I also have girls, so I've seen a lot of those movies. Just like
to me, he reminded me of Rodan from Godzilla King of Monsters.
We're going that. I always enjoy a good zoom shot through caves, just to really emphasize we are deep in here.
We are going deep, deep down.
And
they do so much more with these guys.
They do, although, man, Poseidon just is, like, gone right away. Like, and again, they got the same actor back, and he's a good actor, but yeah, he gets, like, this one little scene, and then he gets to die. It was so funny. I
got cash in a paycheck.
Yeah,
just like, you're just gonna great, pay me, sweet.
Yep. Okay, so here we have the introduction to Ares, god of war, right? Now, what
Edgar
was
Ramirez, god of war?
Was he the Greek god of war, or was he the Roman god of war? I thought he was.
That was Mars.
Mars. Okay.
Don't you remember your Wonder Woman? Ares.
Oh, that's right. That really the one bad part of the first Wonder Woman, that the last fight, which, like, a great movie turned into a video game fight at the end. Really good movie, and until then.
Yes, it's actually, in my opinion, Wonder Woman and Black Panther are incredibly similar to one another because of that exact problem. Really fantastic movies, one of the few superhero movies of their eras to, like, complete a thought and a theme, and actually like have the characters take a stand that's not just like neutral or forgotten. But then they end up having really bad CG third act finales.
Yeah. Okay, so we get Hades back, and he's like I said, he's talking normal, which I appreciate. Okay, the one thing that I don't know if this movie is guilty of or not, what if you can help me with this, is you talked about last week the power level of the gods being very inconsistent. And it just seemed odd to me.
Inconsistent?
Inconsistent. That this little betrayal coming up here, that like Zeus and Poseidon are like taken out by like demons throwing balls of lava at them. Just seemed a little bit like,
I mean-
wait a minute, aren't they like, I mean, maybe eventually, but like Poseidon gets taken out with like one good hit. And it's not by like a god weapon.
One of the things about this is that they are weakened, but they are also in
So they're in
Hades' domain.
like more vulnerable because they're down here.
Yeah.
And is Poseidon's part of his thing that if he's far away from the ocean, he's not as powerful also, right?
It depends on the version.
Yeah.
Usually.
Like, he goes out like a chump there. I'm just saying.
He does. And this bugs the crap out of me. Because, like, okay, cool little mace thing, right? Ares' whole thing is that he had this giant magical sword. It's, like, intrinsic to the character of Ares. And they're just like, you know what? Let's give him a mace. Why? Give him the sword.
I feel like it is always a challenge to make Zeus's Thunderbolt look cool on screen.
I think this is the best version of it, personally.
I mean, this is better than watching...
Thor Love and Thunder.
Yeah, I was about to say Kurt Russell's...
Ugh.
Not Kurt Russell. Wow. Russell Crowe. Sorry.
Russell Kurtz.
That was so bad. Anyways, it's still like, I think it's just awkward to make an etched Thunderbolt out of metal look intimidating without a lot of CG. Like a trident and the pitchfork, like those are just kind of intimidating, very iconic designs for metallic weapons. And a Thunderbolt it's just difficult. And they did the best they could here, but yeah, it's a challenge.
I feel like it would require a huge amount of CG, like you were saying. And it kind of needs to look like a living Thunderbolt all the time. Or turn it into something a little different. Make it so that it's not like just a Thunderbolt like you see in all the statues. Make it into a staff, Make it into a like the head of a pike or something,
Yeah. Now, right away here, we got our first kind of real action sequence. I mean, we've had some tiny ones, but this is like the first legitimate sequence. One thing that this movie I think really did improve on versus the first one also is the action sequences are more creative. And this whole fight actually has some interesting, they establish the mechanics right here. One of them has the venom, one of them lights it on fire. I immediately think of the two-headed dragon from How to Train Your Dragon. But either way, this thing is...
Oh, I thought about the movie Reign of Fire because they had the glands in the mouth that secrete the stuff that ends up lighting on fire.
Yeah. I think it was the two-head thing. But here, like, you think, oh, he's going to take him out, like, right here. But no, but, like, it the way that he beats them and how this whole fight goes, there's some creative, interesting things happening here.
Oh, very much so. One of the things about this director is that he knows how to film action. That is his great skill. He uses quick cuts, but he doesn't use them egregiously.
No, it's not as bad in this film. I mean, there are definitely still a lot of edits, but you actually get a few continual sequences where you get to see the entire action of the hero, kind of through to its conclusion, which I appreciate.
One of the things I appreciate is the name of his son, Helios. Perseus did have a son named Helios, one of his 9 children. I think I said like 7 last week. No, he had 9 kids, including the founder according to legend, founder of the Persian Empire. These are also supposed to be chimera. The chimera was a creature of legend, but they were slightly different here. They didn't have wings. They had the head of a lion, the head of a goat, and the tail of a serpent. But they were slain by Bellerophon, not which some people call Bellerophony or Bellerophonte.
Well, here-
It's really strange.
Yeah, you got the tail right here.
Yeah, which is cool design. It's obviously serpenty,
Yep.
but it's not like full snake, and its
Oh.
heads are
Sorry.
definitely more or less goat lion-y.
Well, yeah. Sorry, I just was. Never mind. I had an inappropriate thought go through my head.
Oh, I always love to hear those.
Well, I was just to say, and actually, if my wife ever hears this, she'll be fine with this. We've had this conversation that whenever men imagine something truly scary, it's something with teeth. I'll just leave it at that.
And that's kind of what that snake looked like.
But like
Now-
this right here, getting into the whole, the two heads, the fact that they need both of them to do fire, and just it's a good the CG is also good here. Although,
Yeah.
would it really be vulnerable to its own fire? Just wondering.
I mean,
I still appreciate.
everything's vulnerable to fire.
That's true, but I appreciate too here that I would assume it's deliberate. Sam Worthington did not like bulk up for this movie. He's right there. If you look at his arms, like he's very kind of normal. He's fit, but he's not like some kind of,
Swarthy.
which makes sense. If he's been living trying to live a normal life, he wouldn't look like he stepped out of the gym.
Yeah.
Man, this is this would hurt. Ooh,
I like his little shaking.
Yeah.
There's a realism to it.
this
that-
would freaking hurt.
Yeah. Even for the son of a god.
Yeah. Well, and then when he turns, you see this the cut on his back. It's like, in a second here when they show
Yeah.
that, it's like, I'm cringing a little bit just thinking about it. This
But,
this old lady too. It just is this one throwaway part here. Nah, I mean throwaway because that sounds bad. It's not, but she does a great job.
Yeah. And she has that line, if you have the power, then you have a duty. And I'm like, okay, Spider-Man.
Dan May.
It's just a rephrased with great power comes there must also come great responsibility.
For a split second when I first saw this, I'm like, are they going to imply that he like just walked up to Mount Olympus? I was like, okay, no. He just went to just a regular temple, which
Do you know where this temple is in mythology?
No.
It doesn't exist. Totally made up for the movie.
Trick question.
But, they
I
gotta...
There are one or two temples, and they revisit it at the end, for the last action sequence.
Mhm.
Well, not the last action sequence, but one of the climactic pieces. Because this movie does do the whole like several action set pieces happening at the same time, kind of working together, which I appreciate.
Interchangeably.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be, if you look at that statue, it's supposed to be very much a reference to the Temple of Zeus that is one of the seven wonders of the ancient world in Athens.
Or Poseidon.
Or Danny Hudson. I don't know if I've ever seen him survive a movie.
He does die a lot.
Oh, wait. X-Men Origins Wolverine.
Well, that doesn't count. He dies at the end of X2, right?
Yeah.
He gets hit by the water, right, coming out of the dam.
Yeah, so either he's crushed by the pressure or he's drowned. You can kind of decide for yourself.
Yeah. He's a good actor, though. He really is.
He is. Especially when he's Brian Cox.
I appreciate Perseus. He's more balanced, dude. Like he does. Yeah, there's not the arrogance in him this time. Like he's not so arrogant to be like, oh, I'm not gonna do this. I'm gonna be a man. He's just he doesn't desire power. There's not like an ego about him. But at the same time, when the situation's like, no, you've got to do this for your son. You've got to take care of this. He steps up.
Exactly. The stakes are so much higher because in the first one there was that like they were trying to use vengeance as his motivator, but he kind of drops it real fast. And in this one, the motivation for him is consistent in the fact that it's his son. It's not vengeance. It's not something that you can construe as selfish or petty. It is it is something righteous that most people would understand, you know? I'm not even a dad, and I understand that, you know?
Yeah. I will say, though, they're inconsistent about one thing that I thought was interesting. Almost, most of the time, when one of the three big weapons are being held by any of the demigods, they got the red glow thing going on, or occasionally the blue glow. But every now and then it just doesn't. And I don't know if that's actually an inconsistency or if there's actually a plot reason for it. But like when he grabbed, the trident there, it was like nothing. But then later it's like, I'm holding it. And it's like, I don't know, something is going on.
I don't know. Maybe you need to turn it on like a flashlight.
Just if you're trying to use it, it like, burns a little bit,
Yeah, that's how you know the safety's off.
These chains, they look interesting. I'll put it that way. It's just like, I mean, I guess they're supposed to be like power sucking chains, but it's just
they look like beads.
About to say, yeah, they look like something you put around a Christmas tree. It's like, all right, they're magic. They hold gods.
They look like a kinky hippie was really desperate and had to take his door down.
Well, Liam Neeson does kind of look like a hippie in this point.
A little bit.
Yeah.
God, Liam Neeson as a hippie would be a funny role.
Oh, the thing is, too, he is hilarious when he wants to be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he could totally do like a hippie on a road trip movie, just a little indie comedy, and have some fun with it.
Yeah. Did you ever see the show The Orville?
I've seen a few episodes. It's one of those shows I've always meant to go back and watch, but it's on the list.
While they were making The Orville, they were also making... Seth MacFarlane was also making the movie 1,000 Ways to Die in the West.
I have seen that.
Which Liam Neeson is in.
Yeah.
And he just pops up as an alien. And I remember him being funny, but that might just be projecting.
Little sword meat. Right. This movie doesn't try to be funny, but every now and then it is actually funny.
Well, I think it's supposed to be kind of a dry humor thing, because that's where Jonathan Liebsman has always done best. Was kind of dry humor where it wasn't like the intentional jokes, but the ones that were a little bit more of like a wink wink.
Yeah.
And so I could easily see that. I remember that very specifically from the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie that he did, that actually had some genuinely great moments in it. And they were always the slightly more subtle ones.
Yeah. Like this.
The outright, like, laugh at me.
Yeah. Well, like this whole sequence I enjoy with him on Pegasus again here. The tiny bit here at the beginning. And then when he goes to land, it's like, don't help me look good. He's just like, he's rusty. The idea that he hasn't done anything like this in 10 years. He's been fishing.
Yeah.
So just a little, because a little bit of levity does help. You could definitely take it too far, but a little bit of levity can help a lot.
Also, a cloak helps.
It does.
The hair and the cloak immediately transform him into so much more of a Greek hero than he was in the first one, where he was just man in armor on horse.
Yeah. He was a California gym bro who just was cosplaying as a Greek generic dude in the first movie. At least that's what he looked like. I know. What are you talking about? I know he's Australian, but he looked like a dude in L.A.
Yeah. Some guy who just got out of his 4 years in the army and is just angry at everybody going to the gym. Hey, what are you doing?
I did this. Yeah, keep it straight. Just like that everybody knows immediately. I mean, I guess they would know. Like the dude riding the Pegasus in. There's not a long list of people this could be.
And these would be people from Argus, if I recall. So they would remember him.
I love the little wing smack. It's just funny. And the fact that
they even acknowledge it right here.
Yeah. No, see,
Dragon Slayer.
he's like stretching and just I don't know. He's awkward. He's not like heroic and walking around. It's this is probably the lightest the movie is for a second, and I do enjoy it.
Yeah, because they have other sequences that are just kind of blatantly comedic, like almost everything with Hephaestus. With Bill Nighy as Hephaestus.
Mhm.
But she is much more of an Andromeda than the other one. I like her attitude. She's a little bit more smiley. You know, there was such a graveness to the other Andromeda. But also, again, I'm just a huge fan of hers.
Oh yeah, no,
When I was
she's
first
great.
watching this, I wasn't thinking, oh, it's Rosamund Pike. I thought that it was the lady who played Helen of Troy in Troy. Whatever her name was.
Don't touch my little things on the map. Just that little moment. Just don't touch my stuff.
Don't touch my stuff.
Yeah, but I like that she's a queen. She's not like, and he's respectful. He's not here to like tell her what to do. Like their interaction here, I feel like is pretty good. That she's gonna listen to him. She's gonna, she's not just gonna dismiss him because she doesn't have an ego. That's part of the whole. She doesn't just turn into a dude in her characterization. That she doesn't have that arrogance that I think a lot of times they give, kind of girl boss characters, this like douchey man ego, which is just such a turnoff. And I appreciate that they didn't do that to her.
Yeah, I very much agree on that one. I have all kinds of commentary on how I think that like some of the failures and successes of writing women, and one of the biggest failures that they have is writing them like men.
Yeah.
Especially bad men.
Yeah, let's see.
In order
Yeah.
to make them strong women. And you're right. I didn't even think about it because I just enjoyed it. So
yeah, no, I think this is a genuinely good example of how you write a strong female character. And I mean, not that again, none of the characters in this movie have super deep arcs. I mean, even Perseus, for as much as it's better than last movie, it's still a very straightforward. He's looking out for his son, and so he's gonna try hard, and that's it, and that's fine. It's an effective, relatable, character motivation. But hers is also like it's a very good example of how you can do a strong woman in authority without making her a man.
Mm-hmm. Here we have the introduction of Agenor. And Agenor was a son of Poseidon. Keep on wanting to say from the comics. From the mythology. He was not this scoundrel and brogue. And this is Tony Kebbell.
See, I'm just not. I don't recognize his face as quickly, and so he's great in this. Like he only has a handful of a bit kind of standout parts in this movie, but I feel like every time the movie gives him some scenery to chew, he's great.
Oh yeah, that's the way he's always been. Like it was one of those things that you could tell watching Josh Trank's Fantastic Four from 2015, sometimes referred to as Fan Four Stick because the way that they decided to write the marketing. That like he had a vision for this character as Doctor Doom, or this actor as Doctor Doom, that just did not come through, unfortunately. And because he's good. And he's kind of visually distinct.
Yeah. This is fun. This is a good little sequence too.
Yeah.
As soon as he realizes, like, ooh, who's in the mood to say yes? Few gold coins. You're so smart. It's just like, before you ask for something inappropriate, shut up.
Yeah.
I would love to see a good Greek naval movie at some point,
300 Rise of an Empire tried. They had some good sequences, but the movie itself just was not nearly as good as the first one.
Mm.
And it didn't quite do it. Actually, speaking of Tony Kebbell, another movie that he was in that was far better than I ever expected it to be, and had some really good stuff, and including a couple of naval combat sequence, was the 2018 remake of Ben-Hur.
See, I never saw the remake. I mean, the original is a classic, obviously. I've seen it many, many times, but never saw the remake.
Tony Kebbell is Masala.
That's good casting.
Mm-hmm. It's really good
Okay,
casting.
I might have to just watch that just for that.
I think you should, because one of the reasons that it stands out to me is that my parents, who hate remakes, were like, "Oh, we're actually going to be showing it at the church." Because my parents are pastors. My dad's a pastor. My mom is a pastor's wife. And she they were sitting there. I'm just like, "You're going to show that? Like, why would you show that?" And it's like, "Have you seen it?" I'm like, "No. Why would I watch a garbage remake of a classic?" And my dad was like, "That's what I thought until a friend of mine told me to see it." And I did. And they have one of the best on-screen representations of Jesus, like, ever. It's very brief, but it's memorable and it's concise to the beliefs of Jesus.
Okay. But did they also did they do the famous naval battle from Ben-Hur in that movie also?
Yes.
Okay. Because I mean that battle in the original, I mean the way that was shot, with miniatures and
It's not
stuff.
as good as the original. It's just, it looks good. It's fun, but it's
Yeah. Well, what I mean is like the original that sequence in the original is a famous sequence from the era, and it'd be cool to if they did a modern, naval battle with the Romans and stuff, it'd just be cool. Because I mean it's such an iconic. The Greek and Roman navies were just iconic designs and stuff, and I mean they're up there with the Vikings as far as just how, known the designs and ideas are, and it'd be cool to see. So okay, so we got so get back to this film. The red, he's holding it. It's where
safety's off.
The safety's off. I just would have laughed if he had gone through the front of the boat right there and they'd sprung a leak and it'd been like, oh crap. Mm-hmm. So it's like now like the Trident's like pulling the boat. Apparently, is that? I think the implication.
Yeah, it's making it faster. Oh man, it's got a motor on it.
Now it's just
Actually, you know what?
Good.
That's really similar to what they did in Thor: Love and Thunder.
Oh, with the
I
goats.
I recently watched that again. No, not with the goats. With a Stormbreaker.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
They stick it in the front. Yeah.
Oh gosh, sorry. That movie just bothers me on so many levels.
Oh, me too. But my wife really likes. I mean, I really like Marvel movies. She likes Marvel movies. She's a big fan of Tom Hiddleston. So we watched Thor, and then we're like, oh, let's watch Thor 2, because she didn't remember Thor 2 very well. And then let's watch Thor Ragnarok. And then naturally she's like, want to watch Thor 4 and just round it off? And it's not good.
No.
There's some things in it that are genuinely good, but it is...
Well, it's three separate movies, too. That's one of its problems.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. Exactly. So Kronos being just like a rock dude underground, just it's obnoxiously generic. Yeah. Like
Kronos had sex with the Earth and produced Liam Neeson.
Now there's a movie for you. Just imagine.
Sorry, just like I'm seeing the like opening logo of like Pornhub, and then it's just a rock slide.
Oh my gosh. All right. So okay. We have I do love the walking through like, yeah, this is not a place we want to be, looking around the trees. But all the traps and stuff here.
Woods.
Okay, so can you give me, as we're walking through the woods, a quick primer on Cyclops?
Robin Hood and Little John walking through the forest.
Not the X-Men, but the original Greek myth.
Oh, dude, you literally stole my joke.
I'm sorry.
I was gonna be like, well, Scott Summers, but no, the Cyclops appeared in the Odyssey, and the like Cyclops means like circle eye, I think, like cycle optics, circle eye, but yeah, there was like a whole civilization of them, I think, They also appear in Euripides.
Because
Euripides has a whole play
in
about
this
that.
movie, they remind me of like Tolkien trolls a little bit.
I think that they have to be. I believe that they were created by Poseidon. Or they had a connection to Poseidon somehow, because I remember watching a video on this movie and going into the history of the things, and like you see them here and they get kind of impressed by the trident, and there is a reason for that. The Cyclopses are just one of those things that are there's so many different versions. Like there's the three there are three Cyclopses that I remember that were in the Hesiod, because they were the son of they were the son of Uranus.
Oh gosh.
Uranus.
So-
There were like three of them, and they were actually like Titans themselves, or brothers to Titans. But I do like this sequence.
I like the sequence, except for one, that it's a laughable cage that he could have just snapped the tree branches and just jumped out of. And the idea that he was like, the fall will kill him. He's like not even 20 feet in the air. He's not really far up. So it was it was a little bit of a, when you're looking at it at face value, it seems a little bit ridiculous. But at the same time, they got to move the sequence along. I get it. I do love the introduction here. We just like the lighting and kind of the like hazy shadows, and they don't reveal them in clear. They don't clearly reveal them right away. I appreciate that.
I agree. The only thing I don't like about that sequence is the you gotta be kidding me. I feel like lingo like that.
Yeah, it's very modern language.
Fit. Yeah. Okay, right here. We have freaking Lily James. Oscar nominee Disney princess Lily James, and she's just in this small side role.
Just
like I find Lily James to be like one of the most attractive actresses like in Hollywood personally. She is gorgeous. And she's just in this little side role.
She's the one that ends up like praying to Ares later, right?
I think so, yeah.
I do find
the only other chick in this thing.
Yeah, but I do find the plot device of the gods like can't find you unless you pray to them a little interesting. It's like if you pray to them, it's like giving away your location or something. They bring that up multiple times in this film.
Yeah. This is the one. I also found this scene really funny because it's like the one scene where you have somebody who is more pale than Lily James. Did you ever see the remake of or the live action adaptation of Cinderella?
I did. It was actually that's right. She was Cinderella, wasn't she?
She's Cinderella. It's the best one of the live action adaptations.
100% the best one. Like they actually
and part of it is her.
Yeah. She did good, and was it the guy from Game of Thrones did a pretty good job as Prince Charming? But yeah.
And oh man, frickin' what's her face from Thor Ragnarok, Lord of the Rings?
Yeah, Cate Blanchett.
Borderlands. Cate Blanchett.
Great actress.
Fantastic evil stepsister.
Yeah.
Evil stepmother.
Man. Ooh. How did that not? Yeah.
That hurt.
That.
Stop! It's hammer time.
And
Lily James.
We'll say there's actually a little tiny bit of strategy going on here, which I appreciate.
Mm-hmm.
And they did,
I love this.
There aren't as many just magic solutions in this film, which I appreciate. In the fights, most of the fights, it makes some sense how the good guys win.
Yeah. Also, Lily James has the prestigious honor in this Titans movie of being the one who never closes their mouth.
Well, you gotta have one, right?
There has to be one.
This is good CG. When he's walking on top of the Cyclops, like the interaction between his boots and this, like it's good, like solid CG work in this movie.
Yeah. Again, I was genuinely impressed by this movie. I did not expect to be. But yeah, here you have the moment. Safety's off. He's got the trident. But now they're like, oh, the trident. They recognize it.
I'm glad you're hanging in there. I mean, you're right. It's like funny, but also strangely modern American dialogue for an ancient Greek.
Yeah. But again, I think that these are supposed to. This is supposed to be a reference that there's some versions of the Cyclops that were created by Poseidon.
So I'm assuming the idea is that these demigods, they can't use these weapons to their like actual potential, like Poseidon could have, but it's still like an indestructible, strong stick of metal to be using.
Yeah, it's a really powerful weapon.
Yeah.
And it's a symbol.
Yeah. Just possessing it like carries weight.
Mm-hmm. It does. And by the way, so Thor's hammer. Zeus's thunderbolt.
Different mythology.
Hades' big fork thing. Bident, I think it's called. And
it's for tuning instruments.
Poseidon's Biden's trident.
The former president of the United States.
Exactly. Poseidon's trident. The three of those do not combine into some sort of giant god nuke. That is completely made up for this thing.
Yeah. It is a proper trident, though. 3,
It is. Yeah, unlike frickin' Aquaman's trident up until the end of the first Aquaman film, which was like a quintant.
I do love that,
They do make
Zeus
these changes.
What's it say? Like, the whole like power coming out of you is just like I drip lava.
Well, the gods in Greek myth bleed. They don't actually have blood, even though you do see blood of gods in this, and it's not quite right. Like he's got red blood coming down his face. Their blood was always molten gold. That's how you knew. That's how you knew that they were a god, is that their blood was golden.
Here's your Lord of the Rings shot.
Yep. It's a fantasy. You got to have a bunch of people walking.
Yeah. And it's always going to be a forested area or like a great plain, Yeah, something. Occasionally snow.
The last one was a desert.
Yeah. Yeah, but you got people walking in a straight line. They're never like in a group.
Yes.
They're a single file. Better hide their numbers.
Sorry.
A little Star Wars there. Okay, so here, I mean, I'm not sure how good the character works, but I do love Bill Nighy.
Awful. Oh no, it's just like this is a really weird version of Hephaestus for sure. I love that they immediately start out with a They immediately start out with a Pirates of the Caribbean reference. It's a.
I didn't actually catch that.
I'm trying to. I thought it was sooner, but there's always a longer prong here.
Yeah.
Prong. Pause. I see the Titan. I see the Trident, and I think prong. Bill Nighy's so great.
He's just
His roles are so various.
Yeah. Well, he's just an actor who you feel like he's just usually having a good time.
Also, Hephaestus made so many things. He did not make the Trident. He did not make the Thunderbolt. He did not make the Bident. Yeah, release the Kraken. That was a line from Bill Nighy in Pirates of the Caribbean 2.
This is great. This whole sequence of like, you ever heard of him? Just, it's just great. And then the idea that he's got like, he's got like his cool name. I think of in Guardians, Star-Lord. Who? Star-Lord, man. He's like, come on, man. It's cool, right? Like, no, it's not. You're an idiot. Many useless demigods. It's a great line.
Yeah. I mean, Agenor, though, he was like a king. I think he was like a king of Phoenicia.
Not yet, apparently.
No.
Well, his hat, too.
They think that they think that he was a real guy because he's been referenced by Herodotus. That was it. Herodotus referenced him, but like posthumously believed he believed he was a real person. He was like a king of Tyre. That was it. Okay, look. Yes, he was supposedly the king of Tyre, which is in northern Israel.
Is that Atlantis in the background there? Just thinking.
Could be. I mean, it looks like a spiky city.
Yeah.
Very Atlantis-ness.
He's so great. Just the way that Bill Knightley delivers those kind of lines, just like fantastic. Just he's so British. He can't help it.
Were you ever a Doctor Who fan, Brian?
I've seen bits of the Tenet era, and that's it.
Okay,
there we go.
Well,
this is such a better cameo than the first movie.
yes, little Boobo.
The fact that he's talking to her. Oh.
Yeah.
And there's the the fork, the tuning fork. Interesting here. You do get a little bit of, exposition here about the gods and, Zeus really screwing up and the fact that Hades actually didn't start out bad and all that stuff.
Yeah. Again, I'll reiterate that Hades was never like a terrible evil in the majority of Greek myth. He's just used that way because he represents, death and the underworld and such. He was always kind of a chill hermit of a god. Most people remember him for the kidnapping of Persephone. Especially since that's become like a weird fixation of a lot of like romance.
Interesting little, just the idea that like, Andromeda is kind of gets through to him here. A little bit of a cliched, humans are great because we're irrational, essentially, is what it boils down to.
Mm-hmm.
But,
thing is not beautiful because it lasts.
It's just whatever. It's nonsense, but also kind of true, at least from a human perspective.
One of the big missed opportunities in this movie is that Hephaestus was crippled. He was disabled, not just mentally like in this movie. But he couldn't walk, and he had these automatons that would like carry him around. And I just think that it would have been cool if they had him being like carried around by robots instead of like just kind of hanging out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So here I appreciate this little detail that the reason why there's a secret back door is immediately explained and it makes sense. Well, I had to lead myself a way back out. It's just a simple little line, but it just adds that little bit of what. So why is there a secret back door to an unescapable prison? It's just, I mean, I those little things I do appreciate.
And it ties into Greek myth as the Minotaur's Labyrinth, which was located on Crete, had nothing to do with Tartarus, didn't move around all funny, and it wasn't built by Hephaestus. It was built by... Was it Bellerophon? No, it was built by Daedalus.
See, I'm just hearing plot devices and Mission Impossible films and the name of Stargate ships now.
I did first learn the legend of Bellerophon and the Chimera from Mission Impossible 2.
See, I mean, as much as I that's not a great film, but I still just like those names, the way they're introduced in the beginning of that film, still are like what I think of when I hear those names.
Oh, it's a fantastic method of doing so. Like introducing that virus, Bellerophon. It's like to create the Chimera. And in order to defeat the Chimera, there must also be the Bellerophon.
And the actor, what's his name? One of like the two big Russian actors, just does a great job with that little bit of dialogue he gets at the beginning of that film. Yeah. Yes, but anyways, those and then Daedalus. I think of that's the X-304 that flies back and forth between the Pegasus Galaxy and Earth, to help Stargate Atlantis.
Yep, Stargate Atlantis, everybody.
All right, but anyways, back to the Greek mythology.
Yeah. Oh, and here we have this really good kind of character development for Zeus. Like I said,
It's his
This
first.
movie takes a lot of the flaws of the first one and actually improves them. And one of the main ways that they do that is with the gods, and like they don't just disregard stuff that was said in the first movie and change it. They actually build on it, which is really rare for a lot of sequels, especially for stuff that you could think of as kind of as stupid as this. And yeah, I just I think that it's really good because you have all the stuff that was prattled off by what's his face there, Hephaestus, about Zeus's past, and then you're seeing him at his weakest, and there is actually a form of character development going on there that is not bad at all.
The mind is the greatest trap of
Also-
all.
The Labyrinth did not play tricks on one's mind.
It was just quite literally just a maze.
It was quite literally just a maze that could be navigated out of using a ball of yarn.
Hmm.
Gotta remember the ball of yarn.
So where in the they're on this like little cliff with like the one door here, but like they were showing this big, they're on the top of it, I guess. So they just walk up. Okay, the
Yeah, I
background
guess
the
they do.
background is moving a little bit. I'm trying to think of like where are they? They showed this big, pillar of doors. But if you look carefully, the background is turning a little bit, so I think they're on top of it. Well,
yeah, no,
those-
it showed them kind of with them in part of it.
yeah, those red shirts just died immediately.
Yeah, but these are red cloaks.
Yes, yes. Yeah, you see the background is just slightly like spinning.
It's
The
a good little
correct
affectation.
the correct door is the one at the very top. That's not subtle.
Yeah. I do like Ares' costume. I think that like the first one, I think that the costuming in this is really good. Where are the women? They go.
Well, they're waiting for their turn.
Right, because it's turn-based,
It is turn based. Yeah, it's D&D.
right? Perseus has got to be a fighter because he's taking some extra actions here.
Oh, he goes down. Ouch! And gives him a double tap with the mace. That's just mean. He's just a regular dude.
Yeah. He's just a baby.
I mean, Ares does seem to have the character trait of just being angry. That's
Yeah.
his only character trait.
Arr. He passed that on to his son then, didn't he? Kratos, the angriest video game character alive.
That is not a lot of time. Was it that the
No,
door like didn't
really not.
Yeah, the door does not give a big window.
No.
It's just one of those where I think if you like did the math on the speed of that door, and then like started
It would have
to,
already been closed.
yeah, it's they're already out of time, but it's okay. It's a movie. This is like a genuinely like, just I don't know. They linger on this.
Bye, Lily James.
In case you didn't believe that he really was evil. Although they have the dialogue right after this fight when they're walking around and they're like, he kills the innocent. He just doesn't care.
Yeah.
Make my stick cool for a minute.
But I think that also shows his ruthlessness
Yeah.
in the context of this movie series, in how important it is for people to pray to gods.
Yeah.
And he goes and kills somebody who prays to him.
Yeah.
It's almost like a cruelty and fatalism,
Yeah.
it's brutal.
Yeah. Yeah. Leave. It is time to leave, dude. Yeah. Like just like a hint of rock music there when the lightning bolt came out. Oh man. Sorry. This immediately makes you think of like the opening of like a video game level. Falling down the shaft.
This movie
There you go.
really does play kind of like a video game.
So this bit of dialogue, I'm glad they acknowledge it here. Just the fact that they have the moment in a fast movie like this. Slaughtered innocents for centuries. All he knows.
Yeah.
I like the little slap there. Just the and again, the movie does try to have these little moments. I say try. For the most part, it's successful, but the movie still just moves along at a breakneck pace.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're already halfway done. And
Yeah.
yeah, just
More than.
this quest thing. I also appreciate that his undergarment. Sorry, we are just thinking about his costumes better. Underneath his armor, he's not wearing like the perfect shirt with like the perfect seams like he was in the first movie. A little bit more of a ratty, you know, like appropriate to somebody just living off the land, you know, fisherman dude again.
Yeah. There was something I was going to bring up in the first movie that I forgot to, and I'm so mad now because he couldn't do stunts in the sandals that they had. So if you looked closely at his feet during action sequences, he's wearing Nikes that are painted like sandals and feet.
Really? Okay. I have to go find a still of that then because that sounds amazing.
Yeah. It's not like super noticeable, but there's one or two scenes where you can catch it. But only if you're looking.
I mean, to be fair, if you asked me to do stunts in Greek sandals, I probably would struggle also.
Right? Yeah, I'm not saying it's a bad thing at all. It's just a funny thing.
Yeah, that is funny.
It's like he's not a real actor if he can't do stunts in like ancient Greek thongs.
You know,
Accent.
it's so predictable when they have the one or two moments where he's like this way, and then it's like nope, never mind. And I mean, but it's kind of forgivable because I don't think I could write this sequence without falling prey to doing that at least once. Also, but it's just there. You got to do it once. Although they do it twice, I believe, in this sequence. That man,
And
that's a good
it's
shot.
a cool look.
That's just one of those like that reveal is like. Although the problem is with that reveal and then kind of how quickly they end up getting through this thing is a little bit of a. And I get it. They didn't want to take 10 minutes of them wandering around hallways, but
And they have a map.
they do have a map. But the map's not what gets them out of it.
I'm the map.
The map's not what actually gets them. It's he fights the dude. The whole thing magically rearranges. That they hold a wall for a second and then they're there.
Yeah, but the implication is that he's been following the map this whole time. So they're like, they're getting there. It's useful. Tony Kebbell has value.
He also has way better teeth than he should for being. I guess he's a demigod. He doesn't have to brush. That's one of the advantages.
Right? He doesn't get rickets like all the other sailors.
Yeah.
Vitamin D exposure and not enough citrus.
All right. Start moving. The rocks are closing in.
Rock on!
Oh, gosh. I do wonder if part of this was, though, they kind of didn't have. I don't know if like faith is the right word or just they just determined it wasn't the kind of movie where you could actually have this sequence be more of a walking and character development. Like you could have done some interesting dialogue, had some cool kind of reflection, and created some character development while they are just kind of walking around a labyrinth. They had to turn this into a much more kinetic sequence.
I was literally just thinking about that. I almost feel like that entire conversation that they had when they first got in would have been done while they were walking.
Yeah, because I do think that this, not that it's poorly done, but I think that they felt the need to actiony up this sequence. I don't think they really needed to. They just had the fight with Ares. When they get through this, they're going to have a face off with, Ares again on, when they find Zeus, and then they got, the big bad fight at the end. Like, they didn't need this additional action sequence.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that it's supposed to represent. I think that they do use it decently, though, because it is supposed to be, Tony Kebbell. Yeah. Agenor having character development.
Well,
He's showing some
this part, but then they separate them. I think they weirdly they wanted Perseus to have one more good kind of mano a mano, sequence.
Yeah,
I don't think they needed it. But
Yeah, I
I
see
mean,
that.
it's not. I'm not. It's not like horrible. It doesn't like make the movie worse. It's just
Oh my
ev-
god, it's so bad.
every now and then I do think that movies. Yeah, especially I feel like a lot of modern movies don't trust an audience to go 10, 15 minutes without something really kinetic happening on screen. And there's
Yeah.
so many of my favorite films that are just you don't need to do that. If you have good character stuff happening, if you have good dialogue happening and character development happening, people will get into that, and you can trust an audience to not get bored if you're doing something else besides making something move really fast or blow up.
I recently rewatched because, like I said, my wife and I have been watching Marvel movies really out of order, mind you. And we recently rewatched the Ant Man movies. Ant Man Quantumania most recently, and that's one of the movies that I think falls prey to that. Is that there there was no reason for them to do certain things, but it was obviously just like, oh, we need the movie to move now, so we're gonna use generic action reason number 5 and go with that.
I mean, they do use his motivation of his son, the fear of losing his son, and kind of that. I mean, so at least the motivation behind his what he's feeling during this, I appreciate the consistency. But again, I think that you could have instead of one other action scene here, you could have had the three of them having conversations, having you could have had him share more about his son, and then you could have found more out something more about I don't know, just family. You could have again, it could have all been character stuff through some well written dialogue, and you could have ended up with a similar end result with a sequence that because you could have had some humor in there, some funny stories, a dad talking about his son, and then some reveal of the other characters. But no, you got to have punching and stabbing.
I mean, they need the Minotaur. They needed the Minotaur fight. But I also think that they could have used the budget that they put into that whole other action sequences and put it towards the Minotaur, so you could have had a better fight.
Yeah.
And maybe his face could have looked like an actual bull.
Yeah.
But if you're going to have a labyrinth, you got to have a Minotaur. It's like the law.
There's a rule. Yeah, because his face just looks like just a guy who's been in too many boxing matches.
Yeah. Okay, was it Theseus? It wasn't... Who was the Minotaur guy? Why am I not remembering this? I should know this.
I do not know.
I swear it was Theseus. But it might have been somebody else. Also, one of the interesting things about the Minotaurs is that the original Minotaur was also known by the name of Asterion, which is bigger these days, because of the video game Baldur's Gate 3 and Baldur's Gate 3 and a character by the name of Asterion in there. But I always found that really interesting because it represented one who was among the stars, Asterion, but it was a Minotaur. Actually, I don't know. I found that kind of cool. It was Theseus. I was right. I thought I was going crazy. Because it was, yeah. Because you had King Minos, you had Theseus, and Minos' daughter Ariadne.
I like the little detail of Zeus's hair being white now, just to kind of let you know. Oh yeah, he's been drained. He's been tapped.
He's having a real bad time.
This is a nice little scene. Zeus, and I think Liam Neeson helps here. It feels genuine. Although, it's really fast, Ares is immediately here to smack Hades around and get it over with. But like they started to try to have a moment there. They kind of tried to let the brothers do have a moment. And they do get one later. I like it when they come out of the tent. They're like, let's have fun one last time. But
yeah.
So is Zeus basically like still having a little control over the Thunderbolt there and being like, I'm not going to let you use it? Is that the implication?
I think so. It's not enough, but Do you want to hear my hot take about Edgar Ramirez now before I forget about it?
Hey, give us your. I mean, we're literally surrounded by lava, so a hot take is appropriate.
I think that circa 2010, when they were announcing castings for certain movies that you absolutely hate, I think Edgar Ramirez would have been the best possible choice that Star Trek Into Darkness could have used for the character of Khan.
I can see that. Well,
He has the acting chops, he has the physique, and he could totally be another Latino playing an Indian man.
I mean, I'll just say I agree. If we get me, if I start talking about Star Trek Into Darkness, we'll derail this whole thing. But no, I don't think that's a hot take. I think that actually, that movie I'll just say this, it either needed to commit to Khan being Khan, or it just shouldn't have used him at all. So, yeah, no, I would have been totally fine with that. I think it could have helped that film.
He is my personal pick.
I love that the subtitles are just like speaking native language. What native language? What is this like? It's Godese? Just grumbling.
Ancient Greek.
Mm. So
Primordial, as the D&D nerds would call it.
So he's got to find. It's a little bit of an anime moment here, you know. It's like, you know, find your inner power, try harder.
Yeah, this very much is kind of an anime, to be honest. Which you know that I'm not the biggest fan of anime.
Yeah.
And I don't really like it when movies try and be an anime.
I love that she's hitting this stuff with like her regular sword, like it's going to do anything. Like, no, you do need a better weapon than just some regular piece of, you know, bronze or whatever the Greek swords are made out of.
She's like, I'm here too. But yes, the Greek are very firmly in the Bronze Age.
Yes. Oh, see, I love that she keeps getting hits, you know, to keep her alive. Like Ares grabbed her sword and hit her with the hilt, and then you know, just knocked her back. Because, you know, you got to keep her alive. And so, but you also got to...
Even though we have firmly...
What's that?
We firmly established that he has no issues with killing women. So
no, he doesn't.
What you doing there, bro?
But she has plot armor.
Oh, plot armor. Lucky.
Okay, so for a second, I thought that Hades died here.
Same. I like this shot. This like long shot there.
Oh man, just pull it out immediately.
He's a god. He'll be fine.
He'll be fine. But
okay, who was it? Okay, yeah.
I really thought that Hades died
there
here.
In the back.
Yeah. But these are teleporting weapons.
That's right.
See, look at that. The Asgard showed up and they helped him out right there.
That was a really good scene.
It was.
Like,
so okay, he picks this up, and this is where he gets the idea of like going to kidnap his son, I guess. Like, ooh, his weakness.
Like, that's right.
Maybe not his weakness. He's just sadistic, and he's like, you know, the whole like, I'm gonna beat you, and I want your son to watch because I'm just, you know, because I'm evil. I mean, he sounds like, you know, like Lex Luthor, you know, in the animated series, because I'm evil. Why I don't wash my hands. Sorry.
That's right.
Michael Rosenbaum getting to voice Lex Luthor once again while voicing the Flash. It's a great episode.
Right? That is a really good episode. Finally, I can see the secret identity of the Flash.
I have no idea.
I have no idea who this is.
Oh, it's good. It's so good. I think it's called The Great Mind Heist. I think that's called something like that.
It's been a long time.
Oh, Justice League. Anyways, okay, back to
Justice League Unlimited, I think, was that one.
Yeah,
Teen Titans?
No, that might have been Unlimited. My daughter's been going through those in HBO Max, so I've been catching episodes here and there when she watches them on the living room.
How did Andromeda teleport, though? She wasn't there, was she? She was there, but she wasn't standing with them.
Because the plot needed her to go with them. I mean,
Okay.
every now and then that's just, it's. I mean,
Yeah.
Perseus was like, you got to bring her. I mean, although you think they would have brought Hades also, if they could just grab people from the general area.
Well, didn't Hades fall down the hole?
No, he like just kind of knelt down, and then it cut to a shot of a bunch of rocks falling, and kind of made you think that he was getting it crushed. But then he shows up later and saves Zeus, so it's all right.
Hades fell down the hole.
But he like runs hell, so I think falling into lava wouldn't do much to him.
Yeah, but he runs hell. He doesn't run the core.
Well, they're in Tartarus here, right? They're like in the prison.
Yeah, but the prison is in the underworld.
Yeah. Now, is he supposed to
like
be
hard-
using the same sword that Zeus gifted him? Because it never does the lightsaber thing. It doesn't look at all like it. But his sword
I don't
also
think
like
it's using
does things that regular swords don't. But it doesn't look at all like the first movie's sword. But I don't know if it's supposed to be the same thing and just different prop or what.
it. I didn't even think about it, to be honest. I haven't
Hmm.
been paying attention.
Give me a big speech.
I do like that.
I appreciate
a little,
that.
like acknowledgement of the expectation.
Yeah. Sometimes I love subtitles. It literally just says Pegasus whinnies. You don't think of Pegasus, the great, winged Pegasus, whinnying.
No, the Pegasus neighs.
He does. And we're gonna
What did I say? Nay.
I always thought this was great. Like, all right, we got Kronos. We're gonna somehow slow him down because, I mean, they don't do anything to slow down Kronos. Like these, I get that they got to give these people something to do, but nothing they do has any effect whatsoever on how fast Kronos does his thing here. Kronos moves at exactly the right speed in order for Perseus to stop him before he kills anybody truly important to the plot.
Agree. I feel like what they needed in this sequence was a city. They needed a city to defend against these demons, which, by the way, no demons in Greek mythology. There's daemons, which are totally different, and that's kind of where the word demon comes from, but they weren't what we traditionally ascribe demons as. But instead, they just kind of have this quarry.
Yeah, it's just, this is the one part where I think that fight with Ares is pretty good in the temple that comes up here. And there's definitely some pieces of this battle that are good. But a lot of this battle does, I think, fall into the kind of generic category.
Agreed. Very much agreed.
And I part of it, I feel like, is just they needed to give something to everybody to do. And what was Andromeda supposed to be doing? And what was what's Poseidon's son's name?
Agenor.
Yeah, they just needed to give them something to do. Because he really doesn't.
I very much agree.
He doesn't really have a moment here. He just, he's got one or two stabbing a demon moment, but he really doesn't do anything from this point out. And it's a shame because I liked him a lot.
Yeah, totally same. Again, that's why I think that they needed a city.
Yeah.
And they needed this city where his son was located or something, so you have extra reason to care.
Yeah. Because
there's no state.
Yeah, unless you care about the amount of soldiers dying, which, these movies never care about that. It just doesn't matter. There's no... Yeah, again, it's just you have to have a bigger fight. You have to have a big battle. I do appreciate that these guys, even when they get impaled, these demons, they keep fighting. They're not just killed. It's nice. You gotta, keep going at them. And the fact that, both sides fight, that is, kind of a cool design, I feel like. Because, that makes them very difficult to, you can't really surround them, right? Because they'll keep going. But yeah, I mean, here you have this fight, which is pretty good, actually. And the stakes, bringing his son in, I feel like is, both keeps the stakes going, and it's a inappropriately dickish move by Ares.
And if there's one thing from myth that is always consistent, is that Ares is a giant douche. Seriously, Ares is always a dick. Like he's never the noble god.
The little, but
It's
like,
actually
but his
decent
acting here is
dialogue.
actually like, like you can tell he's a good actor that's given not much.
Nothing.
Yeah, not much.
Given
I appreciate
absolutely
he takes
nothing
off his
to
cloak
wear.
though, because a cloak would be a total liability in a fight. A cape,
right.
it just gives the
Like
other
a
guy
cape.
something to grab. Yeah, no capes.
No capes.
The headbutt. You gotta have the good headbutt.
Headbutts are pretty good
Ooh,
sometimes.
and the wrestling move. You gotta have the good, WWF move.
Dun, 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 dun. More combat or
Poseidon.
immortal
Poseidon.
combat.
Perseus takes some like legit hits here. They do get the
Who
the
does?
feeling of impact down.
They do.
Smack you with
I
a
like
rock.
that. Like that. There's feeling to that one.
Yeah.
Like
Oh,
the
puts
rock
his,
to the
puts
face.
his head right through the column. Oh, man. But yeah, man, see, when we cut back to this, I mean, again, this is, many movies have done the final battle that's got, and the blood looks very CG all of a sudden here.
Yeah, but this was like the trailer shot.
Yeah. This so far has been
distinctly remember
that was a decent long shot though.
Yeah.
Yeah, they should have had this happening like Kronos is on the move, and I don't know, they had like he was advancing towards what's the city? What's Andromeda's city?
Argos?
Argos. Advancing toward Argos, and they have a strategy to like distract him or somehow slow him down or keep him, making him pause occasionally to kind of buy time. But like he keeps getting closer to the city. Like there's ways you could have done it and still had some really good. And he so I thought he was gonna like set up for a beheading here, and instead he just punches him again.
Yeah. That's one of those things where it's just kind of you need it because it's classic. Villain isn't quite killing the hero, but it doesn't always land, and this is one of those times when it didn't quite land for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is. Ooh, man. Just stomping him on the ground. Like rock cracking.
That additional scene of the breaking of that altar, like, really sold that scene for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, now we see the return to Hades. Such a hater.
Yeah. Yeah. This. I got distracted there for a second. Sorry. The I appreciate that they gave them one last moment. I feel like if they had killed Hades, and they had that one little scene where Zeus is kind of asking for forgiveness, like I forgive you, and then before Ares comes in and just kind of spoils everything. It would have felt like, again, they didn't finish a thought. It does feel like, at least with these two characters, like you were saying earlier, they finished the thought with these characters.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, they do it pretty quickly and shallowly, but at least they do it. They don't just leave it as this unresolved thing that you have no idea.
Yeah. And this whole thing of, like, the gods kind of acknowledging that their time is over, and he gives his, like, half of his life to bring Zeus back. It's a bit of a quick heel turn, but it's not unfounded, so I'm like, you know what? I'll give it to him.
Yeah, and that they give him power back, but not like we're now going to alter the course of this battle drastically. Like, they go out, they have this fun little sequence where they go and they murder some demons, but it's not like they show up and, like, save Perseus, or like, it's if they had that and then that is the solution to the entire fight, I think it would have been egregious. But the way they used it, it's just as a little bit of a character moment for them without being egregious to the plot in general, if that makes sense.
Would you have called it perhaps a Deus Ex Machina?
In that situation, yes. If Hades had just shown up and like, here's your power back, we saved the day, boom, then yes, that would have been absolutely, I think a Deus Ex Machina.
Which, for those of you who might not know, the Deus Ex Machina came from Greek tales of gods just showing up and saving the day.
He vanished. It's definitely a trope, but you know what? It's all right. Now here, ooh man, gets a good stabbing.
Yes.
I do like here. Just hold on. All you have to do is not let go, because if you get your hooks in and the right move behind somebody, there ain't nothing you can do about it.
Yeah, I mean, a 90-pound teenage girl could kill Dwayne Johnson by doing that. Though Dwayne Johnson would just need to fall backward.
Yes.
It's so funny. The character of Ares, in everything I ever see the character of Ares in, like, I think with the exception of like probably the first Percy Jackson movie or something like that, Ares always dies. Like,
Well, we
this,
like to see the douchey
Wonder
character die.
Woman, God of War, and all that.
Nope. You got stabbed with a lightning bolt.
Shocking.
I kind of wish, just because when Poseidon died, I don't know why, I thought it was kind of like, oh, he turned into sand. It's like, you know, he's like, it's an ocean thing. But then when all the gods die that way, I was like, okay, it's just a god. I kind of would have liked that to be like, if the gods had all had slightly different deaths, maybe a slightly different effect. I don't know if that would have been worth the CG, but a minor thing, but something I thought about when I saw
What
this.
what would you have done for Ares in order
Yeah.
to make his unique and
Some kind of
fitting
like
for?
some kind of ash. I don't know, maybe.
I would have had him like dissolve into a puddle of blood or
Ooh,
something along those
yes,
lines.
blood would have been good. Okay, these just turn into a
Hades
long.
would fit for Ash.
Yeah, that's true. These just turn into a long stick, a long glowing stick. I wanted like a cool design.
I could see that. Yeah, Spear
Very-
Trium.
Very creative name. It's like the Spear of
The
Three.
Spear of Three.
They worked really hard on that name. All right, you have Kronos out. He's just throwing lava around. I mean, and I hear the idea that like both of them combined, throwing their best at this point at Kronos, basically makes him pause for a couple seconds, and that's the best they have. And I don't mind that. Like that's appropriate, I feel like.
It's like, well, we can't all live up to the legacies of our fathers.
Although this does feel like a video game fight. Like you got to wait for the he does a few moves that you just have to dodge. You can't actually like counter. Yeah. And then he gives you an opening, you got to take advantage of it, and it takes 3 hits to take him down, just,
You have to wait for the targeting laser, so that way the ships in orbit can fire down.
Yes. Although, do you think that they did a little bit of a I keep Perseus on Pegasus once again, doing a flying sequence on Pegasus, like they just felt like, well, it's just too good to not do the image of him on Pegasus.
I think that it was like the most memorable thing from the previous movie. So they were like, if this turns into a franchise, this is going to be that franchise's thing.
Ooh.
They actually had some really good miniature shots there. They're just quick enough, But like, I like that. That's a good shot.
Oh, yeah.
That's good CG.
CG,
and then they mix it into the practical, and I like that. And
and they don't look like they're sitting on a green screen, which I appreciate. Like when they go to the actors, like there's enough. I'm sure there is some green screen, obviously, but there's enough practical stuff around them.
Mm-hmm. That they're standing in a quarry. There is actual dust.
Yeah.
And yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah. But he's just throwing lava. He's just kind of, he looks like a toddler throwing a lava tantrum.
You see, what I kind of wished when I was watching this sequence is that, like, he was a little bit more human, almost. That he's able to, recognize his sons and be able to, speak. Make him more than just, hey, guys. and be able to kind of bring up that like these are his sons and they were the ones who killed him last, or like locked him away.
So, okay, so Zeus has got a shield, but his battery's draining. He's got his force meter. It's going down here.
Yep. Yeah, the CG is genuinely really good with this monster. All of his moves just look fantastic.
Well, and
there's so many movies coming out these days that don't look half this good.
Well, and they give the a big giant anything would not move quickly. Like I know Quarter Crew has talked about this a lot. You have to physics don't just disappear, and I appreciate
Square cube law.
Yeah, that he doesn't. He moves at the. You feel the size and the weight as portrayed in his movements, which I really appreciate because lesser CG crews and effect, just creative visionaries just ignore that stuff and they wonder why their shots don't look good.
What orifice did he go in?
I mean, I think he went in the mouth, but I don't know where he came out. Okay, that's a good cheer. Rosa like that was a good big mouth open, just like hurrah right there. Just man, committed right there. Yep.
Like I said, I think that she just had fun with this role.
She did, but again, there's just nothing of consequence happened with these characters. They just kind of did their thing in the background. I feel bad because I feel like they branded a creative something here at the end. I do appreciate that he had to go down into Kronos a little bit. It's not like he didn't just throw the spear at him, or that he didn't do the typical hero thing where he jumps off Pegasus and then does that arched back, both hands on the spear, downward, suicide dive thing. That shot that they use so often with in fight scenes.
Yes, I agree. That is a huge annoyance of mine.
Zeus's armor just changed randomly also, by the way. It's not that it's just dark. It's totally different pattern the way it's made from the way that it showed it reforming on his chest when Hades gave him back some power.
He's in mourning.
Yeah.
I'm just making. I
have no idea.
It's just we made these costumes. We're gonna use these costumes.
Interesting how they staged this shot with them their faces are facing each other, but he's Sam Worthington's obviously further. Yeah, he's further back. So it's just just a little bit of they're staging it in a way that's a little more interesting. There's no eye contact here, right? No more gods.
Which, that's one of those things. Just I get what they're doing, but it's all wrong. Perseus was actually not at the end of Greek mythology timeline-wise. In fact, he was fairly early. You still have the Odyssey and the Tale of Icarus and all this stuff that is yet to happen.
Not about
yeah.
Okay, the transition there. Everything looked really good with the sound effect as he was turning, and then when it went to the back of his head, his hair just looked odd all of a sudden.
It did. I think that it was actually a practical prop.
That does sound possible based on how it looked.
I think that they were going for the look of a lot of those old sculptures. So, yeah. That's
Hades is just going to go wander around. Now, they did. Do you know anything about? They were planning a sequel to this, but this just didn't have the box office power. Do you know anything about what they were?
They were. Yes. So they did have a canceled sequel. As far as I know, they didn't release any details about what it was supposed to be, but they had an initial idea called The Revenge of the Titans that would have been about somebody trying to resurrect the gods, or some of the gods returning, or other gods coming in to Greece to kind of claim the void that is Greece, and needing demigods.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
there's room.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to sit there and say that it's an absolute.
So
it's not something I would have gone for.
Coming up right here, despite the history of it in other versions of the story, I hate this little moment coming up. It's just they have not set it up at all, in my opinion. What do you think about the kiss coming up here in a second? It just seems very forced and out of nowhere to me.
I think that they needed more setup for it,
because they didn't even hint at any kind of chemistry between these characters other than just respect. Like it's just.
But she smiled at him, and that's enough.
Well, and if you have two attractive leads in a movie, they have to kiss. That's a rule, right? Somewhere that is written down in Hollywood, you got to do that, right?
I think that you're totally right, but I think there's a little bit more to it in this one than that, because Perseus and Andromeda were married.
Well, yeah, like I said,
they had 9 kids together.
I absolutely get that there's precedent in the mythology, but this movie didn't do anything to set it up. And there was nothing, and literally the last movie actively fought against it with Io. So it just felt very like when I saw this movie again, I was just like, what? And then again, they move immediately onto this, which is the last scene of the film. So there's no follow up. It's not like she's watching them and you're thinking like, oh, okay, maybe there's the start of a family here or something. It's just like, no, I'm going to kiss you and then walk away. And then it felt like something that they threw in there when they were thinking well, we might make a sequel and we want to have this for the sequel. And it had no other purpose than that.
Yeah, no, I wholeheartedly agree on that point.
Is this?
I guess that
this scene,
I just kind of took it in stride.
Yeah, I mean, it's not egregious. It's just, I don't know, whatever. I do like this as one less. I'm glad they ended the movie with them, father and son. They end the movie where they begin it. They kind of tie up this particular string as far as he doesn't lose sight. His son on sword would be freaking heavy, by the way.
What? No, swords aren't that heavy.
For a kid his size.
They're only seriously. Go look up how much swords weigh. Even great swords, they're made of really good steel. Yes, there's heft to them. They're not that heavy. The ones that we make, especially replicas, are much heavier than the ones that they would have made back in medieval times. Bronze is not as heavy as steel, even.
Yeah.
So
okay, all right. So
it'd be wieldable, especially for a 12-year-old boy.
That's true, I guess. A Greek bronze sword would only weigh about 2 pounds. The end that's telling me. Oh, shut up.
Vindication.
You take your Greek history. It's fine. It's fine. Well,
That's not Greek history. It's the history of swords.
Well, despite the apparent historical inaccuracy of that and my ignorance of it, which I apologize for.
Of all the things that are going to be inaccurate in this movie.
The swords, they were portrayed as being too heavy. But either way, this was, it definitely had its issue. If if Clash of the Titans is a 5.5, this is a 6.5, 7 to me.
Yeah, I would never put it as high as a 7. Yeah. 7 is that's when it gets into good.
Okay. 6.
5
6.2
is
6.2.
5 is okay. Clash of the Titans, I have as a 4.5. This I would put as a 6.
On
my highly inconsistent ranking meter.
Well, because it's very emotionally driven. and the mood that you're in when you watch the movie, right?
Exactly. The first time I saw this, I just wanted to watch something that involved action, and I was kind of vaguely curious. And I honestly don't think I even remembered that it existed the next day.
Well, the fun thing is, we're going to be sticking with mythology, but a kind of different mythology. On next week's episode as a little bit of a tease. But yeah, we have a lot of credits here. I guess a lot of CG work was done on this film.
A lot of CG work was done on this film.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, I would love to see another. So instead of like, how would you fix this movie? If a Hollywood executive said, "Hey, Zach, you're a good writer. You've made some successful films," and some kind of hypothetical here. We want you to resurrect the Greek mythology sword and sandals epic, and you get free reign to set it up. It needs to be a possible multi-film, type of setup, and you have basically an unlimited budget. What would you come up with as your both has to be commercial appealing, but also won't suck, as a film?
Well, I would take an unlimited budget and give it to Christopher Nolan to make the Odyssey.
You just stick with you just go straight for the Odyssey?
You know about that, don't you?
Wait, I know about the Odyssey. Is Nolan making the Odyssey?
Christopher Nolan's next movie is The Odyssey.
I probably have read that, but I wasn't thinking about it. It's definitely
dude, I mean, this thing, time of recording, this has not come out. It is scheduled for 2026. It has just entered official production, and it has one of the most stacked casts ever.
Well, at this point, any actor, at least as far as I know, almost any actor, if he asks, will work with him.
Mm-hmm. Tom Holland, Zendaya, Anne Hathaway, okay. Robert Pattinson, Matt Damon, Charlize Theron, Elliot Page, or Ellen Page, however you want to say it, John Barenthal, Lupita Nyong'o, John Leguizamo, Bill Irwin, and there's going to be more very shortly.
Okay. I'm going to sound like a hater by saying this, but Tom Holland and Zendaya, it's actually almost a turnoff for me, even with a great director.
I actually agree. I'm not a big fan of either of them. I like Tom Holland as Spider-Man. Zendaya was whatever in those movies for me, but I do not find Zendaya all that interesting. She was okay in Dune. She was nothing special. And I actually have kind of a legitimate dislike for her because of the show Euphoria, which I find to be one of the most egregious, gross, immoral, pedophilic shows ever made.
Yeah, I've not seen it, but based on seen a trailer or two and heard some descriptions, and I'm like, nah, it's not really a show for me. Doesn't surprise me to hear you describe it that way. But yeah, yeah. Anyways, but he does have Nolan usually does get good performances, and even I'm not a big fan of Anne Hathaway, but
Same.
I mean, with the right directing, she can be fine.
Yeah.
Anyways, okay, so I didn't realize that's interesting. I mean, I would definitely interested to see Nolan do something with that genre.
Okay, so. But to be totally honest, I didn't answer your question adequately because it wasn't entirely true. I would.
Well, you're not going to direct it. You're just going to write it.
I would look at a whole bunch of mythology, and I would see how many of these characters could I overlap, or would it be possible to take a character or characters and make them a constant through a whole bunch of Greek stories, like an immortal like Io. Okay, Io was cursed with immortality in the myths, like she was in the previous one. Some people even believe that in the mythology they believe that she moved to Egypt and became a goddess there, and she's the origin of the Egyptian goddess Isis. But just because they wanted their own god cinematic universe. But I would then look at just like, how could we connect this movie to this movie to this movie to this movie? And I would find a really interesting one like Perseus, even, that's earlier in the mythology, and I would start there, and I would make it this big, bombastic thing, kind of like Clash of the Titans from last week, but with more soul, more heart, and better actors, better dialogue, and just a really fun, maybe even like Guardians of the Galaxy-esque feel to it, while being slightly more sophisticated. Like, this is going to sound really weird, but almost trying to find the middle ground between Gladiator and Guardians of the Galaxy.
Oh, I was thinking in my mind, I kept seeing like images of Gladiator as far as like just that,
like sword and sandal.
Yeah, like kind of the vibe of that movie. Because I mean, despite I believe it is somewhat justly overrated, but at the same time, it also is really good. So it's kind of
Gladiator.
Yeah.
Love that movie.
There's a lot of people that love to hate on that movie, and I don't think that's justified. But it's also like, it's not perfect, but man, it's definitely got vibe, and it's got energy and charisma. And Russell Crowe, at that point in his career, was bringing it.
Yeah, that movie was just a heck of a thing.
But yeah, if you could, but that also I think really was a great example of how you can have serious and stakes. But also, that movie has some legitimate lighthearted moments and some good character moments. And, I mean,
such a good villain.
Yeah, I would love to have the idea of a band of misfits kind of going on an adventure. The mixture of like some professional soldiers with some scoundrels and maybe hunters and kind of, like wild men. You could have you put together just like, 8 dudes or whatever going on on a quest. And had the right kind of chemistry there, you could make for just a very memorable film. Because I mean, again, characters are what elevate movies from being really cool effects showcases to being amazing films. And characters are always going to be what does that.
Very true.
You're never going to have a movie that transcends just cool to being one of the greats without good characters. It's impossible.
The closest we've had is Avatar.
Yeah. And that still is, I mean, you said it, the closest, because it's, for as much as I enjoy those films and do respect, as people give James Cameron crap, I respect him immensely. The guy is a force of many things, and he's as influential on Hollywood as George Lucas is, for better or for worse. But he's definitely got his weaknesses too.
Yeah, I think that the thing about James Cameron that most people tend to remember is that he's an absolute douche in some areas.
But I think most highly successful, super driven people kind of are, in a way. They just kind of have to be.
Yeah, I almost feel like they have to be, yeah. But, it's just like torturing your actors on set and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah. Although I will give him props that he's usually in there with them. Like when we get to Abyss, you've never actually seen Abyss, right? Very tiny, tangible.
I haven't. I've seen quite a bit about it.
Yeah.
But that's the one that a lot of people go towards because there's that one actress that like walked off set because she had to do like 200 takes of drowning.
Yeah.
And like had to go to therapy for years.
Yeah. But James Cameron was underwater with those guys in the same suits for 12 hours at a time. So he's, I mean, I know Michael Bay.
There's good reasons for it.
Yeah, I like Michael Bay is famous for being a total jerk on set, but he's also like, most people have also said he's like one of the hardest working guys you'll ever meet, that he doesn't ever not work. So anyways,
bring the Bayhem.
Yeah, it's definitely a mixture of, you kind of, those qualities just go hand in hand with the guys who just push boundaries. You're not going to have somebody who's just a soft, sensitive, caring person who's gonna then just break ground like crazy.
How did we start talking about James Cameron when we were
Well,
talking about Gladiator?
we were talking. Oh no, we were just talking about how effects and amazing technical achievements will never elevate a film being amazing. It will get it so far, but great characters and great storytelling will always be the key to what takes a good movie to being a great movie.
Yeah, very much agree. And that's what I would want to see out of a Greek myth movie is fun, memorable characters where you get to go over these heroes, their journeys, but each one of them would need to stand out from one another. You know, Perseus would need to stand out from Theseus, would need to stand out from Hercules, would need to stand out from Bellerophon, would need to stand out from yada 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 yada.
Yeah.
Because so many of these things. Oh man, Odysseus. That'd be like a really good one. But there's a lot of options for these. But mostly, I think that what you would need for that is not holding so tightly to the mythology that it screws you up, but also not just throwing it out, kind of like Wrath of the Titans here did, and just being like, it's fine. Let's just do our own thing. Respect it, but have fun with it. You know.
No, I'd agree.
But that's just me. What would you do?
I mean, honestly, something similar. I would. You can. I would be not overly concerned with following the original mythology. I would try to at least keep references correct, try to call Titans Titans, try to keep the characteristics of gods in the timeline somewhat accurate. But at the same time, you are playing with mythology and you're trying to make it accessible for people watching in the 21st century, and it's hard to do that. So I mean, I think that you could find a balance between not making a change for flippant reasons, but also not being so beholden to the original mythology that you kind of get trapped in it. But I just think if you used those characters as the setting for just an epic adventure and made the adventurers, just memorable guys who you should. I don't like having the disposable characters in a group. I just, because it's so cheap and so you can just see it coming a mile away when you have a group of guys going on a quest and you've got half of them that have characters and have lines and have moments and then half of them are just there. And well, these guys are gonna, they're just there because you need stakes to be set in a fight, and you need, we can't think of any other way to have stakes being set than just he kills 2 or 3 of them right away, and so that's how you know he's a threat, because we have no other creative way of showing he's a threat. And it's just
you need bodies to throw the bad guys.
Yeah, it's just it's kind of lazy and just overly cliche, and so I would try to avoid that and not have any quote unquote disposable members of the group. I would still have a few of them die, but try to make each death matter. And
the closest I can think of that would be there in the last one in Clash of the Titans with his little traveling group, because you actually got to know some of them.
Yeah.
You actually came to like some of them.
By the time you got to Medusa's sequence, you had gotten to that point, but they had to kill off half of them along the way already.
Yeah. But you almost expected them to survive Medusa's.
At least one or two of them, yeah.
One of them,
Yeah.
But no, they take them all. And I kind of applaud them for that. But in this one, it was very obvious. I wasn't sure if they would kill off Lily James, because she wasn't big at this time. She wasn't any type of lead the way that she is now, being in movies like Cinderella and Darkest Hour and several others that she's led recently. I think she actually played Pamela Anderson in a movie.
Okay. Yeah, that was with Winter Soldier.
Sebastian Stan.
Sebastian Stan, yeah, that's right. I didn't see that, but I remember seeing about it. So, but yeah,
I remember seeing about it because Sebastian Stan is my wife's like big crush.
apparently he was in 2 really good movies
and
last year. He's nominated for an Academy Award for one of them.
for playing Donald Trump.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
I know I saw. I know it's not the one he's nominated for, but the one that I've seen bits of, and I kind of want to see the whole thing where he plays like the actor has like the disfigurement and has to, what do they call it, but it's apparently like a really good performance. But either way, we should wrap this up. This is, I mean, I think that this universe, Greek mythology, definitely has everything sitting there for a really, really epic, couple films. But it's hard to nail down. I think a lot of it's just studio expectations and people just defaulting to thinking that what most people want is just explosions and people running around. And when I say explosions, I mean like in these kind of movies, it's lava and rocks being smashed, but still just not trusting the audiences to having. And this is a slightly unfair comparison. I'll quickly say this, and then we should wrap up. In Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring, which is still my favorite out of those 3 movies, it's not an action-heavy film. Now, granted, they were working with an IP that was well-known. They were working with characters that were well-known. But so much of that movie is just walking and talking. But the characters were distinct. They had personalities. I mean, I think that at the beginning, if you didn't really know them from the books, maybe Merry and Pippin were a little bit interchangeable. I mean, that's like the one criticism I could think of. And,
they were for me because I didn't know them at the time, and it took me until the second movie to really differentiate them.
Okay. I mean, so it's not perfect. And, Legolas and Gimli, they take their time kind of building them up by the time we get to the second and third film. But again, it was, you can have a movie, that's a long movie. Even the theatrical cut of that movie was 3 hours long. You can have a long movie where you just have a group of people who are going on a journey, and a lot of it is just them talking, and you can do it in a way that's interesting and compelling. And I kind of think to use Lord of the Rings as an example, you can have a three movie setup where you have a group of characters that go on a quest together, and they get broken up, and there's all sorts of stuff. I'm not saying you follow that the plot line of that exactly, but the first film doesn't need to be super action heavy. I mean, by comparison to Two Towers and Return of the King, Fellowship has pretty mild action scenes, but it's still great because the characters were cool, like getting to know them and the locations they went to, and you were uncovering the world and the stakes and all that stuff. If you have the patience and you set it up correctly, you can come up with something really, really special. And as a very broad general outline, something like that is what I would love to see in this type of a world.
I very much agree with you, but at the end of the day, I think that if you really wanted to be able to visit all of these Greek myths in a way that's like really impactful and interesting, and something that's going to stick with people and be affordable, I think they're already doing it. I think that the best way to do this is through something like the Percy Jackson series.
Have you seen any of that?
And
I haven't seen any of it.
I saw the movies, and I thought the first one was okay. And then I read the book, and I'm like, oh, the book is way better than the movie. And then second one was just abysmal. Just genuinely an awful movie. And in terms of mythology, it was horrific, and it was also like weirdly sexual with the character of Persephone towards somebody who's supposed to be like 14. And then there's the Netflix series, and I no longer have Netflix, so I always meant to check it out, but I never did. But I heard that in terms of a book adaptation, it's excellent.
Okay.
So as much as I would want something a little bit more hardcore, I think that in order to actually adapt something into what you could consider a shared universe is what they're already doing. The only other one that I would think of that I would kind of want to be able to see in live action done well is supposedly in development in the form of God of War.
Based on the game series?
Yes.
Okay.
Amazon's had that in development for about 2 years, and it sounds like it is going to happen. It's going to be based on the 2018 God of War. But what they believe might happen, based on some insider leaks, is that it will be an adaptation of the 2018 God of War. Balrog is directly involved, by the way. The writer and creator of that game.
Okay.
That they will be doing flashbacks into the first 3 games and Kratos' backstory.
That'd be a good way to do it.
Because doing a straight adaptation of the first 3 games would suck.
Yeah, that'd be... Well, they were very much of their time, and they're very video games. Gamey video games.
Very
Yeah.
Very much so. So I think that those are ways that we could really be able to explore Greek mythology.
Yeah.
And actually have it palatable for the modern audience.
All right. Well, with that, we have wrapped up this little detour into Greek mythology. And like I said, next week we will be revisiting a different type of mythology, but you'll have to...
Modern mythology.
You'll have to come back to find out which one we're talking about. But, yeah.
You can say that I liked this. Another.
Nice. All right, guys. Have a good night.
Good night, everybody.
There's doors and corners, kid. If you don't clear the room, if you don't come in slow, that room will eat you.